Okay, evening everybody. So it's about 3 or 4 minutes after 7. There's still 8 or 9 students who haven't signed in yet, but I'll, I'll sign them in as they show up on my screen. So welcome to Jury Poly 3106. This is, the name has changed since the last time I taught it, which was a couple of years ago, but it's essentially Indigenous law and policy. Right? So we'll be talking a lot and going through a lot of the law and policy related to the evolution of Indigenous law in Canada, and to a great degree how how we being the dominant society has treated Indigenous peoples. So the first thing I would do to start this class is do a land acknowledgement. So I acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe Ojibwe people, and on the lands subject to a treaty negotiated with the British Crown, known as the Robinson-Huron Treaty of 1850. Okay, tonight's going to be really brief. This is just get to know you very briefly and say hello. I know about, there's 30 odd students. I know about half of you from previous classes, so it's nice to see you again or to see your names again. And I look forward to working with you in this class. And, clearly for the people who I don't know yet, I look forward to getting to know you, right? I hope you enjoy the class. People who have had my classes before know that I highly value participation and dialogue amongst ourselves. So I'll do everything I can to ensure that that's facilitated. And as you all know, or most of you would know, I actually reward that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the PowerPoint, which is just an introductory number of slides to go through an overview of the course. All of you do have access to Moodle, so hopefully most of you have taken a look at it. There you will see a breakdown of the topics covered over the course of the semester, and you'll see that it's broken down into the readings for each week, the topics for each week, and videos. And I'll describe how we'll process all of that on a weekly basis. All right, so let me just share the PowerPoint. Okay, so you should all have this up on your screen. So I refer to this class as Indigenous Law and Policy. Again, that's not quite the technical name, but that's essentially what it is. Okay, so this is who I am. So again, those of you who know me would be familiar with this information. Who don't, all right, so there it is. You already have my email address because I've sent the class a couple of emails already relating to the link for tonight's meeting and a course outline, which I've now amended again. But I certainly prefer email communication as my preferred method of communication, although I have given you my phone number down here. So if you want to text me, you're welcome to do that. Although to tell you the truth, I hardly ever check the text messages because nobody really does that. But I will check it from time to time, but I'll definitely see any emails you send to me, and I'll see them, fairly quickly, and I'll certainly respond as quickly as I can, clearly if you have questions or concerns regarding anything we're doing in the class. So please feel free to do that just at any time at all. Okay, the text for the course is this. It's the 4th edition. So this is the first year I've taught using this particular edition. It's Diversity and Indigenous Peoples in Canada. So I've taught this course now, I guess 4 or 5 times over the last 8 years. And I've used various editions of this book, but this is the 4th one. It came out last year, so it's the first time we've used this. I had a student email me who apparently took this course, and I know that there's a course at Sioux College that uses the same text. So if you have an earlier version, you can be comfortable in knowing that probably the 3rd edition is fine to use if you in fact have that edition. But anything earlier than that, you should really upgrade. And I've also sent you guys all a link basically saying or setting out where you can contact Emond Publishing and purchase a license. I believe their shortest license is 1 year for online access to the text. So that's probably the most economic way to do that. So you're certainly welcome to do it. Okay, these are the class topics. And these are the ones that we'll be dealing with pretty much on a weekly basis. You'll see there's 10 topics. There's 12 weeks in the course, but again, tonight is purely introductory, and the last class are going to be group presentations, and I'll talk about those in a second. So the remaining 10 classes are pretty much broken down into exactly how you see it here. All right, so again, tonight, introduction. Next class is going to be who is an Indian. It's really important that you understand what that actually means. Who, in fact, is an Indian, both constitutionally and culturally and otherwise in Canada. There's lots of different definitions of who, in fact, is an Indian. Indian is a term that I don't like to use. It's somewhat derogatory these days, but it's a term that we can't avoid simply because the term Indian is what is found in the Constitution, the Constitution Act of both 1867 and 1982. And it's also the title of the Indian Act of 1876, which is still the dominant piece of legislation that dictates the life on reserves created by treaty for the most part. So we really can't avoid the term Indian, although next class when we talk about it, we'll talk about all the other terms that are relevant that essentially mean indigenous, and that's the term that I like to use, and that's why I changed the name. I changed the title of this course to Indigenous Law Policy from what used to be called Indian Law Policy. So we're going to go through that. We're going to understand the definitions of Indian, Indigenous, Métis, status. There's going to be an assignment on that next week. For those of you who, and I don't know who's done this, has taken treaty relations with me before. So the first couple of weeks are going to be pretty familiar because it's foundational to what we're talking about when we deal with definitions. So we're going to be talking a lot next week about the Daniels case, a very important case that went to the Supreme Court of Canada in 2014. So if you did treaty relations with me last year, then you're going to be familiar with that. So it's going to be a bit of a review for you in that regard. But again, that's not going to hurt you. Obviously, it's really important that you're familiar with it. So these are the rest of the topics as you follow that. So we're going to deal with residential schools, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, violence, mental health, social economic issues for Indigenous peoples, land issues, incredibly important, and treaty rights, missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, the 60s scoop, criminal justice. All right, all of these things we're going to touch upon. We're not going to, as you can imagine, it's an incredibly broad topic and one that's really important these days. We're not going to certainly be able to touch upon everything that would be relevant in the life of an Indigenous person, but I'm going to try to give you as broad an overview as possible with as much specific information as we need to fully understand each of these topics. Okay. If anybody ever has, if you have a question at all, well, whether it's tonight or during the semester, you can either speak up and your name will come up on the screen for me, so I'll be able to respond to you. Or there's a function in the chat, or I think it's the participants at the bottom of your screen where you can actually put your hand up, and I'll see that as well. All right. Okay, so this is how I've changed this over the course of the last week. So I apologize to you for those of you who have seen different versions of this, but this is how I'm breaking down the marking. The more different ways I mark, I think is a much better way for you to do well in the course, because there are some things that you may excel at that that where other people don't, but they may well excel at something that you don't. Hopefully you excel at all of it. But I've tried to make this as broad as possible so that there's as much participation and as much opportunity to do really well. Right. This is a third year course. It's cross-listed, jury and poly. So I teach third and fourth year courses at Algoma as seminars, essentially, which means that I pretty much expect that the class average will be 80 or more. Right. So some of you will do much better than that. Some of you won't do as well as that, but the average will be 80% for a seminar. And I'll do everything I can to make sure that your grades hit that number. So if you do the work that I assign to you, you do the readings, you watch the lectures, pay attention to the PowerPoints, you will get an A in this class, and so hopefully that's enough incentive for you to do a little bit of work that's required to achieve that. All right, so these are all the separate things that I'm dealing with. So participation is worth 20%. Breakout questions are 15, midterm exam 15, group presentations, that's the last class of the semester, 20%. And you get the option to do a final exam or a final paper. And I do that because, and I don't often do this, but I do it for this kind of class because some of you do very well on tests and some of you don't, like tests and preferred papers. So I'm going to give you the option of doing that. And either way, it's worth 30%. So it's worth a chunk of your final grade, right? But that's an opportunity that hopefully you can pick what you think is the best course for you to, the best pre-course for you to do to get that final mark. Okay, so participation grade, again, this is a really important item. Now, again, third or fourth year classes, I usually allocate about 30% of the class or the grade to that. But because this is an online class and, and different than in person, I reduced that to 20%. So, you will be able to participate, obviously, and doing it online by participating just the way I just mentioned a few minutes ago. But it doesn't have quite the same weight in the final grading as would an in-person class where I can see you face to face. So it's worth 20%. So call upon you for it. Importantly, and those of you who hadn't before would know this, what I do now that we're teaching online, at least this semester and probably the spring semester as well. Hopefully, we're back to in person in September. I think that there's a really good possibility that if we're not fully in person in September, it'll be a combination of in person and online. So we'll see what happens. That's the way things are going, I think. So what I do, and I'll be doing it this week, so I will post for you, there's 2 videos that you're going to have this week. One deals with the first assignment, which I'll talk about in a few minutes, but the second one deals with what are called breakout questions, which deal with conversations we're going to have at the beginning of the next class. So I'm going to post a short video for you. They're usually 15, 20 minutes, half an hour at the most, for you to watch between now and next Monday. And then the first thing we're going to do at the beginning of next class is discuss it, right? And it's usually a very good way for you to participate, right? So that often, is a really easy way for you to get that participation grade up. And how I mark that is like this. So just showing up to class, you're going to get 8 out of 10, right? And again, when I was doing in-person classes, I gave everybody 7 out of 10 for actually physically coming to class. But because this is a different environment that we're in, I'm giving everybody a little bit more credit for making that effort to do this online. So coming to class gets you an 8 out of 10. And then again, at the beginning of the class, when we talk about the video that we discussed, that I posted prior to class, and during any part of the class at all where there's questions asked or answered, if you simply ask or answer one question, then your 8 goes to a 9 out of 10. And if you do that more than once, it'll be a 10 out of 10. I'll send you a Google form after the class, and it'll show you exactly what the normal form will be after the class, asking you, did you attend and did you participate, and how much did you participate? So that'll go out after every lecture. Although there are ways for me to try to capture who's in the class in any event, but I just do that for the sake of record keeping. I will take the best 75% of those marks for you at the end of the semester. So there's more than just the weekly class participation. The assignments I give you in class go towards participation. There's going to be a film study in 3 or 4 weeks that will go towards participation. So there's probably going to be, in round terms, anywhere between 12 and 15 marks that fall within that rubric of participation, and I will take the best 75% of them. So if I actually do 12, then it's the best 8. If I do 15, it's the best 11 or 12 of your marks. So it gives you an opportunity to not worry if you don't participate in one class. You can certainly write that one off and still get full marks for this grade. Any questions about that? Okay, you get the hang of it for those of you who haven't had me before. Okay, so breakout questions. So each class, and this is actually after the lecture, I apologize, you'll be sent to breakout rooms to draft an answer to a question that I'll post on Moodle prior to the class. So again, before next Monday, so probably no later, I'll try to do it no later than Thursday, I will post 5 questions on Moodle, and they'll be classified as breakout questions on Moodle. And those 5 questions will be relative to the class we're going to have following, so the next Monday. And then after the lecture, you're going to go into breakout rooms. I can do that with Zoom. So you'll be in one of 5 groups, and I'll give you 10 or 15 minutes, depending on the question, to work amongst your group to come up with a response to the question, and then after everybody's had a chance to do that, I'll call upon the groups to provide their answers. And if you do that, in a decent and thoughtful kind of way, then I usually give you a 9 out of 10 for the answer, unless it's spectacular and you'll get 10 out of 10. And again, that there's a separate item on your grade for breakout questions, 15%. So it goes toward that part of your total grade. All right. There's going to be a midterm exam in this course. It's going to be held on February 22nd, which is the Monday after the reading week. It's simply multiple choice and true and false. There'll be 50 questions on it. You'll have the entire class to do it in. It won't take you that long, but you can have as much time as you need. All right, and I believe it counts towards, I don't have my, let's see this again. It counts towards 15% as well, okay? All right, there will be a group presentation in the last class. So we'll, in the next couple of weeks, I'll come back to this. I'll post for you the types of the topics that you can have for the presentations, and then put you into groups. Again, there'll be, I haven't decided how many groups are going to be, depends on how many active students we have. There'll be anywhere between 5 and 7 groups, right? And you'll have a topic and you'll work together as a group. So this is a group mark. So it's important that everybody in the group participates with each other, right? That you communicate with each other during the remainder of the semester before the presentation. And what you'll do is you'll have a very specific topic that you are going to present to the class. And the purpose of this is to find something, that is quite specific, not a broad topic. I don't want you to necessarily teach the class about a topic that, that I can do. I'm going to get you to pick a very specific kind of event or item that that stands on its own, and I want you to enlighten the class and me with respect to whatever you choose to do. All right, so your presentations usually will take between 15 and 20 minutes. If they run a little bit over that, that's not a problem. It almost always includes the group having some kind of video, audio, visual materials, PowerPoint, YouTube videos, what have you, and that's great, right? And then at the end of the presentations, both myself and your classmates will grade you on the quality of your presentation, right? So this is really important for you to do well and to impress your colleagues, right? So it's an opportunity for that kind of participation. All right. And lastly, and again, this is worth 30% of your grade. There's going to be a final paper. So again, I will post the topics for you with plenty of time for you to choose whether in fact you want to do the topic I provide, or you can probably provide me with the topic if I approve it. All right. And it's going to be very straightforward. It's an 8-page paper, double spaced, proper citation guides have to be followed. And so, it'll be due sometime on or before the end of the examination period. The examination period in this semester goes to the end of April, all right? Or the alternative, if you don't want to do a final paper and you have to tell me which you're going to choose to do, the final exam, again, will be multiple choice, true and false. There'll probably be 100 questions on the final exam. And again, it'll be scheduled to take place during whatever time the registrar chooses for that purpose. Okay, so that's the breakdown of how the grades take place. Anybody have any questions whatsoever? Okay, everybody understands what it is. Again, if you don't think of a question now, but you think of a question during the week, email me and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. All right, so the way each class is going to go is basically, again, the beginning of the class, there'll be a discussion of the video that I've posted prior to the class. And then there'll be a lecture that I'll be giving you basically on the topic of the class, and then we'll move into the breakout questions, and that'll be it. Now your classes are scheduled for 3 hours every Monday evening. I find that to be a fairly lengthy period of time to be able to basically have you pay attention to what I'm doing. So most classes won't go much beyond 9 o'clock. There won't be a break, but they'll end on around 9 o'clock. Sometimes if there's a fair bit of topic or content to be discussed, it may go between 9 and 9:20, 9:30 maybe, but I'll let you know if that's going to happen. All right, I don't want to keep you. I'll invariably not keep you till 10 o'clock. That's just too late. But that we'll see what happens. But for the most part, that won't happen. All right. And lastly, I can tell you that I've already posted on Moodle this particular video. It's called "We Will Be Free: Aboriginal People in Canada," and this is the topic or the content for your first assignment. So it's also on Moodle. It's assignment number 1. So I've asked you to basically watch the video and then give me your reply to the assignment as I posted it on Moodle. I'm going to send you a Google form that you can put your content into the form and send it back to me. I've actually had one student who already did this assignment for me a couple of days ago, so that's pretty keen, which is perfectly fine. So she sent it to me as an attachment to an email. So I have that. So don't worry about sending it to me again. I won't say who it is, but she knows who it is. Otherwise, just put your answer. It's already asking for 500 words into the Google form and send it back to me. And again, it's worth 20 marks of participation. All right, so that's pretty much it. The only thing I could probably try to share with you, let me just see here. Let me just see if I can go to Moodle. Okay, so there we go. It's called Indian Law Policy. That's administration's error. That's been changed, but obviously the registrar's office doesn't know that, but it has been. All right, so this is what everybody's Moodle looks like. So, tonight is the intro. There's the video that I want you to watch. So you click on that, it'll take you to the YouTube video. And here's the assignment itself for you to go to. So it tells you exactly what to do. I'm looking for you to have it completed and back to me by 5 o'clock on Thursday. All right, so you have essentially 3 days from now to do that. So hopefully that's not too long. That gives me enough time, obviously, to read all of your responses and mark them accordingly. There's a schedule of topics on Moodle. So here's what this is. So this is where I've tried to tell you exactly what topics are going to be discussed on these particular weeks, right? So we should be pretty close to maintaining this schedule. It may change, or there may be some things that run over into the next week. So for instance, I can tell you that next Monday's class on who's an Indian and review of the Daniels decisions in the federal court and the Supreme Court is a lot of material, right? So it's probably likely that when we get through all of that material, we may not get a chance to do the particular lecture on Métis, what that actually means and what the definitions for that are. So that may go over to the beginning of the next class, which is February the 1st. Okay, and then again, these will all, we should flow through all of these pretty much according to this schedule. All right. Okay, again, who's an Indian's coming up, and then constitutional and human rights. And then all of these separate topics and all the readings are posted for you. If there's special readings, instead of having you go to look it up or retrieve it from the library, I've posted them as PDFs for the most part on Moodle for you, so it's much easier for you to access. There's virtually always a PowerPoint for the classes. Land issues, actually, there's 4 PowerPoints. That's going to take 2 weeks to cover. There's material on your final paper. And there we go. And in criminal justice is the last week. And then the final week again is the group presentations. All right. So there we go. So, okay, guys, that's it for tonight. I didn't want to basically burden you too much for the opening lecture. All you have to do now for the purposes of this week's work is to watch the video I posted on Moodle. We will be free. Basically do the assignment as I've given it to you on Moodle and send it back to me. And then, of course, you need to do the readings before next Monday's class, which deals with the definition of what in fact is an Indian. All right, again, one more thing. Any questions by anybody? Hang on, there's a chat. Can you post okay, yeah, I can put the link. I can put the link to the classes on Moodle. So I'll do that. If you prefer that instead of an email, I can certainly do that. So that's not a problem. So that's a good idea. So thank you for that. All right, I'll do that. Okay. All right, guys, pleasure seeing you or seeing your names anyway. Some of you have given me I actually saw you. So let's take it from there. And again, any questions whatsoever, please send me an email. And I'm very much looking forward to working with you in this course. It should be a very informative course for you, and you will learn a lot. And when we talk about learning things that particularly deal with Indigenous law and policy, when you're finished with this course, you will know more about Indigenous law and policy than 99.9% of the Canadian population, right? And that's a very worthwhile thing, especially for this particular topic. All right, guys, thank you. I appreciate you coming tonight, and I'll see you next week.